eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
We were muted. We were muted at the beginning. My bad, you little freaks. How do you fit 100 weirdos in a box? You look at Project Looking Glass whistleblowers late at night. That's what you do. That's how you do it. And here we are. We're about to do it today. This is part 2 of the Bill Wood interviews, testimonies, series of information that he gave out. And we've looked at Bill Wood once before, and I just went back to look at the previous stream to add below for anyone who maybe enjoys this one and missed that and you want to go back and check it out. It's actually one of my most viewed streams. I had no idea, but you guys obviously really liked that one. So that's linked below. There were a few things from that stream that made people a bit uncertain about Bill Wood. At the same time, he was saying some really interesting things though. But let's just get those out of the way first, because I couldn't find, normally we like to read just like a little Wikipedia, you know, to give a little once over on who these people are. I couldn't find that for Bill Wood. So from memory, I want to just talk about the things that left some people a little bit uncertain. The first one being, a lot of people felt like the way he spoke didn't sound like a Navy SEAL, that he might be either laying it on a little bit thick about the positions that he served. But that's, you know, I feel like that's a tricky one. Ultimately, everyone is different. Everyone talks differently. So I don't know about that one. The next one was that he had some kind of sexual assault charges pushed against him after he started speaking out, which is a weird one, right? Because we know that like intelligence agencies use things like that. They have the ability to plant CP on people's computers. Like, this is stuff that people know about. So again, I'm not saying it's true or not, who knows, but I'm saying, I think when we look at this stuff, it's important to be aware that like, if someone wants to silence you, planting things like that, digging up weird things in your past is probably just part of the playbook of discrediting someone. So I think that's important to think about when we're listening to this guy. And given when this interview took place, where we are today, and just kind of seeing how things have actually panned out, to how truthful he actually was. And I think the last thing was the fact that when speaking about Project Looking Glass, they often talk about 2012 being this kind of cataclysmic point of no return, right? And obviously we're past 2012 now. We're all still here, thankfully. But when I think of that, I don't necessarily think perhaps 2012 was like meant to be an Armageddon cataclysm. Yes, like the movie, but more of a point where we were kind of locked into a specific timeline. And that's basically the way the world has been going ever since then, which could make sense. Like, if that's what it's meant to mean, which it is, according to the Looking Glass stuff, it does make sense. It does seem like we have been kind of locked in this crazy timeline that's slowly beginning to unfold and reveal itself today. So with all that being said, I'm excited to get into today's show. I hope you guys are. If it's your first time ever listening to Bill Wood, I think you're going to really enjoy it. I did say we were going to watch his tent videos. Okay, so like, I'm pretty sure the last videos he ever uploaded, he's like on the run speaking from a tent. We're not looking at those ones today because I found one that seems to be in between them, in between the first ones that we looked at and the tent videos. So I think also it's good to look at these things in a chronological order. So just before we get started, before we get started here, Kelly Hall, 6 months. Thank you for the 6 months, Kelly. She says, woohoo, I've finally made my 6 month of weirdness. Love and good vibes to you all. Thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate you, and enjoy that nice gold trim on your badge. Attempted Human with 7 months. Thank you very much, brother. Paul Cornelius with $20 says hi from Adelaide. Shout out to Adelaide, the hometown. Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate you, bro. Richo with 8 months says, what's up, Freak Fam? And Rusty Grunnett with 9 months says, loving all your content, Josh. Missing Suki lots. Man, I miss Suki too. I had a little moment yesterday where I was like, man, does she even know my name anymore? Yeah, I miss her a lot. I'm sure she does. I hope she does. And Paul, again, with $20 says, love the show. Keep up the good work, bro. G'day to all the little freaks and weirdos. Love and peace. Thank you very much, Paul. It's extremely generous of you, man. I really appreciate the support. You helped me keep these lights on. All right, guys, let's do this. This is Bill Wood, Project Looking Glass, Whistleblower. We'll get some polls happening to see how you guys are feeling throughout this, but we got about an hour to go. This is an interview with Lisa. I can't remember her name, but I'm sure she'll tell us. Here we go. Lisa Harrison, there you go. Thank you very much, Lisa. R.I.P. Nick Pope. Yes, thank you very much, Stone Cold Steve Autism.
Hello, I'm Lisa Harrison, and today is Tuesday the 7th, I believe, of February. And today I'm talking with Bill Wood. Bill is an ex-Navy SEAL who was also involved in some, what you would call Black Ops. Black Ops, what do you call it? Black Ops technology.
Above top secret missions.
Above top secret missions. And has only recently come out in the last several weeks or month. And to date has only spoken with Kerry, Cassidy and Project Camelot. So this is Bill's first interview outside of that.
Live chat's not working.
And I'd like to start by saying welcome, Bill.
It's good to be here, Lisa, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak in an otherwise Project Camelot forum.
You're welcome. Now, you've done one initial interview with Kerry that went for a couple of hours and where you got the chance to tell your story. And then there was a follow-up with David Wilcock, as well as Bill from Avalon. And then there was another one, which was also alive with an audience on Saturday. The first two went very well from my understanding. But Saturday there's been a bit of a backlash. Is there anything you would like to say or address about that?
Some interesting events that people may not be aware of happened the day of the interview. Number one, I received some panic communications from David Wilcox that Kerry was in great distress about my involvement with lightworkers.org. I think you should know of them. They're based out of Australia as well, and somebody I've been working with for quite some time. I've also worked with many other groups, or still continue to work with many other groups, Anonymous, the Occupy movement, and very soon, hopefully, if I can get my name above board, I'll be working with the Thrive movement as well, all of which are wonderful, wonderful groups of people. And all of them have one thing in common. They're actually doing something to help change the world and not really sitting back on the sidelines and bitching about things, I guess is the easiest way to say it. I got some information right before David contacted me that suggested that my interview was compromised and that I would not be getting a fair shake, so to speak. And then I was also contacted by David Wilcock and was informed that Kerry was contacting him and freaking out about my involvement with lightworkers.org. As I am very much a spiritual person, in the sense that I do believe that that humanity has a chance and does have what it takes to evolve their consciousness and to be able to get past this illusion that we all live in and see things for what they are instead of what we see on TV and the media and the news.
This is why I really enjoyed the first Bill Wood interview, by the way, because despite what he's talking about, he actually has a positive spin on it. And I think that's really valuable. Even if I even feel like despite how truthful he is, and I'm not saying that because I don't believe him, but obviously we don't know, But despite that, I think the fact that he at least has a positive outlook still holds its own value in its own right. When was this interview? I believe 2010 to 2011, somewhere in that gap, because I'm pretty sure the Kerry Cassidy one was 2010, and this is after that, and they're talking about 2012, so it's got to be somewhere in that gap. And you can tell by the terrible webcam quality as well.
I decided to do the interview anyway. I can disclose that there was an incident back in 2009 with an interview that she did with Pete Peterson. He basically, when he did that interview with her, and you can pull it up on Camelot, when he did that interview with her, she was asked ahead of time not to discuss certain subjects. And he was very distressed that those subjects were brought up and asked that interview never be released. It was instead posted, and has been a sense of consternation between what I would say are the White Hats or the Oath Keepers and Project Camelot.
Okay, Bill, before you go on, I'm sure you can appreciate that I don't want to get in between any drama that you've got going with Camelot.
Then we shouldn't bring this up at all.
That's between you and them. I was more...
Just a quick note. This woman is obviously Australian. Does anyone know her? Does anyone know who this person is? Has she done any other work in this sort of field as like an investigator or anything like that? I've never heard of her before.
Addressing the viewers, actually, when it came to the backlash. It seemed like people weren't as supportive of what you were trying to say, at least in the first hour and a half, than you may have hoped. And I think personally, I think the issue is that when this what you can call it the truth movement, the big umbrella being the truth movement, it's kind of no different to the movie industry. You know, you've got your action stars and you've got your leading men and your romantic leads. And when someone like yourself comes out of the whistleblower cupboard on a particular platform, and in your case, platform is ex-Navy SEAL and involvement with Looking Glass. And that's what people want to hear you talk about. So hear you talking about, you know, the police departments and the corruption. I mean, it was like, where's that coming from? People didn't get why you were talking about that. So it was just people wanting you to stick to your genre, really.
Well, and I guess what I was leading into is that because I asked Kerry, told Kerry that there were certain things that I would not discuss, that she wanted me to discuss, particularly having to do with where I am and the people that are protecting me, that she also limited the scope of the interview and gave me a bunch of parameters that I was not allowed to talk about. And it was very frustrating that I was asked to talk about those things during the interview, even though I made it clear that I did not want to discuss them. And yet I was not allowed to bring up the subjects that I wanted to discuss because the scope of the interview was limited by Kerry. So
interesting. That's really weird. So, as I said at the start of the show, the first time we watched Bill Wood was the interview that they're referring to. So that's linked below. And he's saying that in that interview before they went in, Kerry Cassidy basically said, you can't talk about X, Y, Z. And Bill said, okay, I won't. And I don't want you to ask me about X, Y, Z either. Okay. And then they went into the interview and apparently she started asking him about the things that he didn't want to talk about. Meanwhile, he was also confined about what he could speak from things that Kerry had said. That's very strange. And it seems very odd that an interviewer in Kerry Cassidy, who is like investigating the situation, would limit the interviewee about what they can say. I mean, I doubt it, but I would love to know what these things were that Kerry Cassidy didn't want Bill Wood to talk about and why. Andrew Matthews with 3 months says, have you watched the new Bob Lazar film yet, Josh? If so, do you think it's worth a watch? I actually want to do a short video on it today because, yes, I think it's absolutely worth a watch. I thought it was fantastic. Winston says, thanks, Josh. Thank you very much, Winston. Pancho Slap, you little weirdo. Thank you for becoming a member. Dave Bryson, off to bed as per Palm Beach Pete for Attorney General. Love you, weirdos. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate it, brother. And he's gifted a membership as well. Legend. Let's get some love in the chat for Dave, guys. Thank you very much.
It was very frustrating for me that I wasn't allowed to talk about the true things that I wanted to talk about because she didn't see the sense in them, or was afraid that she would get into some areas of spirituality that she doesn't want to deal with, even though I believe that's, honestly, it's part of the truth about what's happening, is that there is a sense of spirituality in what's happening right now, and the fact that we're being led to believe that well, I know what everybody wanted. Let's put it that way. I know everybody wanted to hear me say, you know, where to go get in the black limousines so they could be driven to the UFOs and put in their ascension machines and life would be perfect. Unfortunately, that is not reality.
Damn it.
What is reality is that there is truth out there, and that the ends of those means are possible, but it's not that simple. There is free will involved and choice, and we do have to accept that we have a certain level of responsibility in this evolutionary process of ours and the ascension of our consciousness, and only then can we join our galactic brothers and sisters in a level of understanding that will make it so when we leave this planet, we don't run off and destroy everything in the galaxy just as we're destroying everything in the Earth.
Well, it's the spiritual side of things that I want to focus on today anyway. So this is your opportunity to do that.
Give it to me,
Excellent,
Lisa.
excellent.
And Bill.
I want to start, though, by
that's
recapping.
What I didn't talk about.
Okay. Well, I want to start by actually trying to recap what I understand Looking Glass is and the information that it gave you based on what I've heard you talk about so far, right? So, Looking Glass is a technology that's been used at least since the 60s. Would that be right?
Since before I was born, I guarantee it.
Okay.
Wow.
Now,
Looking Glass is a tech that's been used since the 60s, and Bill said before he was born, which is probably the 60s. Wow. Where did it come from? Because Looking Glass is interesting because there are a lot of people kind of from this era, like obviously Dan Borish is another big one, that talk about Looking Glass. Even Matthew Brown kind of alluded to it, whether that's actually what he meant. Matthew Brown in his tweet alluded to like a super AI that can predict the future. Like that kind of sounds like a Looking Glass, really. Is it anywhere in the lore of like, I don't know, man. God.
You did suggest on Saturday that using this device to look into the future may not have actually been its primary purpose, but it's what it was being used for.
And I believe I know basically what its primary purpose was. One of the subjects that of spirituality that nobody wanted to get into. If somebody of a higher level of consciousness were to use this machine, I think that it would be much more in tune for, in one statement, to talk to God or divine consciousness or commune with God. Certainly, it's a little hard to understand for third density people. And if we were given this tool, it would be impossible for us to use it properly because you can't be self-deceptive and still be able to understand how important a tool this would be to people of a higher density. Now, realize that all I was given ultimately was data.
That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to just clarify. That you never used the device yourself. What you were given, I think it was the late 90s, was it not?
It was Yeah, 98. So
Right.
yeah. Late
So you were
90s.
given the data that had been collected from all of the
Mm-hmm.
people over the years who had used the device to look into the future, and you were asked to research that and use
Correct.
your own intuitive abilities to
Correct.
either come up with an alternative conclusion to what the data was
No,
suggesting.
that was the only thing I was asked to do, is come up with if I could come up with any alternative theories,
So,
because the data that I was giving all led to one point. There was
That was the whole thing, right? Is that Bill Wood was kind of this highly intuitive empath, and that's how he got selected and put into the places that he was in, allegedly, was because of his ability to kind of feel and intuitively know things, which is interesting. Build on Sound says the question is the AI to actually see the future, or is it just able to predict events based on outcomes with very high accuracy? It's an interesting question. I actually think that is what reading the future is. I don't think when people predict the future that they are actually, it's not like a knowing. I think it's perhaps like almost like a form of pattern recognition and kind of seeing the way things are trending, and the special ability is perhaps the ability to kind of consider a whole bunch of valuables that are sort of ever changing as time progresses, and kind of identifying the general direction that they're going and being able to come up with a result. I think that is what future telling is. It's more of like super high level pattern recognition and being able to come up with like a decent guess on that. And that's why potentially I think they're wrong sometimes, because it's more of like a good estimate based on your ability to, I guess, see patterns. Kelly Hall, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. You are a darling. Appreciate you very much. And Toxic Fart says, Clayton, whether Woods is believable or not, whether he was a SEAL or not, as an Air Force veteran who has met people from other services, military people don't speak a certain way. Thanks for streaming at this time, Josh. Clayton, it is my pleasure to be streaming with you at this time. I did have to get out of bed a little bit early, and I am a little bit tired, but that's okay. I'm doing it for the people and to spread the love around and make sure everyone gets a little dose of strangeness.
no alternative theories.
in terms of how it worked, the image that I have is that, say you're in 1967 and you want to see into 1987, that what you're seeing is possibly an unlimited number of timelines into 1987.
Correct.
Correct? And that they
You do see an unlimited one, but the more possible futures are more prominent. They come through more easily, I guess, is the easiest way to say it.
does this just spit out data in the form of, numbers like a computer, or does it produce images?
It produces interlaced images.
So it is kind of like watching a movie, a holographic movie or something.
It would be like watching a movie that's imposed with every other movie ever created, and you have to use a computer basically to figure out which images go where, put them together, and then you've got every movie ever created. But the only one you want to watch is one.
So when you say, okay,
Very complicated stuff.
Can anyone explain interlaced for me? Can anyone explain the term interlaced and how he means it in that context?
so when you say one timeline is stronger or comes through clearer, does that mean the images are just clearer for that?
They spend more time. They get more video time, I guess, is the easiest way to explain it.
Okay. Did they then have the ability to insert information about hypothetical events and say, okay, if we put this person in as president, or if this particular natural disaster happens, and then see the consequences of that?
That is exactly what they do. I don't know if that's what they're supposed to do, but that's what they did. Yes.
Okay. So here we are, say 1967. We're looking into the future. We see unlimited possibilities, but the closer we get to 2012, the number of possibilities narrows and narrows and narrows.
Hmm.
Okay.
That is correct.
And
And
then
you see less and less images that are interlaced together. That's very distinct. Yes.
I see. So then no matter which timeline you're on, you get to 2012 and there's a wall,
And there's a wall.
regardless
And
of the
there,
timeline.
regardless of the timelines. And the timelines, as you get closer to this date, um, contract or converge into less and less timelines until the information that I got, we got down to two. And it's very, very hard to understand how that would happen. Um, and the only way that it can easily be explained is once you touch a hot stove and you burn yourself, you understand that you don't touch the hot stove anymore. And you just
Yep.
don't do it anymore. That's how free will and choice works. If you get burned, you won't go back there. Well, eventually we learn enough through our own free will decision making in duality to know that the eventual conclusion of duality is to go back to that seminal Adam and Eve event where the knowledge of good and evil was chosen, and we just figure out what would have happened if Eve would have put the apple down and said, no thanks, I'll just keep going with perfection as it is. It's a little tough to, summarize in a quick little interview, but that's the evolution of consciousness.
I don't know if I'm just projecting, my own journey and level of understanding over time. And I probably am. Obviously, I am to some degree. But I'm curious if you guys agree with this, that like the concepts that he's talking about right now make sense. Like I'm hearing what he's saying and I'm sort of like resonating with it to a degree. But I feel like that's only because of the way things have like unfolded and developed and the things we've learned in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years. Do you know what I mean? This is him saying this in like 2011. It's like, 15 years ago, roughly. I feel like the things he's saying back then, if I would have heard them, and, obviously I was quite a bit younger then, but even still, the things that he's saying, it would have just been whoosh, straight over the head. Even though I was interested in these topics still, it's just like what he's saying feels way ahead of his time. Bifta, 12 months. What a legend, sir. Thank you very much, bro. He says, 12 months. My journey to enlightenment began many years ago. However, the last year has been the most transformative and eye-opening. God bless you all. And he's gifted 5 memberships. Bifta, thank you very much, dude. I appreciate the 12 months of support. Enjoy your well-earned and beautiful orange badge, sir. Appreciate you very much.
Understanding that duality is an illusion that we've created to teach ourselves the experiences that we need to understand how to transcend duality.
So this event that you kept, or this wall, there was no way of seeing beyond that.
It's the lack of time at that point. And it's tough to understand what that means.
Yes, from this perspective, it is. So,
yes.
when you went into this, were you told that this event,
I agree,
in 2012, corresponds with, say, the crossing of the galactic equator? Were you told anything like that, or is it just we keep hitting a wall? Can you see if we can find a way to not hit the wall?
The crossing of the galactic plane of our solar system, crossing the galactic plane, is a well-known event. If you're a physicist or a scientist, you study this. It's not a secret like it is to the rest of the world. So no, I've known about that event, man, for since
previous to that.
Yes, I mean, got to spend a lot of time with very, very smart people in the military, and got to learn a lot about let's just call it stuff.
Well, anybody who's into astrology, anybody who's following the main calendar, anybody who's studied any of the ancient or astrotheology, anything like that, they are also aware of crossing this galactic
Oh yeah,
plane.
I mean,
So it's
the
not just the
knowledge is
scientific realm. Yeah.
right, but in the scientific realm, it's just as huge as it is to everybody else in all the other realms, because the scientists are looking at it from, the problematic possibilities of what happens. There's a lot of energy that's getting blasted into the sun right now, and we see that effect. And they've been thinking about that for many, many years.
So now that we've gotten down to these two timelines, when did that kind of kick in? When did we really just get down to two, or have we yet?
We haven't. No. We're still in the millions and billions of possibilities right now.
But are the variations in those minute? Are they?
Some are. Some cataclysmic events that could have happened have passed not happening. So some very big timelines have ended. Many suggestions have been given. I would offer that one that would be on everybody's awareness was YU-55, and there being a timeline where that asteroid struck the Earth right where NASA said it was going to.
Okay.
And something prevented that and moved the timelines ahead. And I certainly know that the technology exists for us to have changed that. Certainly, if you can use magnetic resonance theory to make a craft propel itself through the air and space, you can push against an asteroid and change its trajectory quite easily. It's just what we don't know about in our technology level currently.
I know this is possibly speculation, but do you believe that there are, or do you know that there are both, we'll call them white hats and black hats, I guess, within within the military and within these black ops above top secret departments? Are there both camps using the
Yes.
same technology, with access to the same technology, and actually kind of against one another?
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, there's a war going on in America that nobody knows about.
Is it just within America,
It's
though?
not a shooting war. No, I think it's throughout the world, but I definitely know the military's perspective from it. And
Matthew Brown touched on that as well, lightly, but in his own way. But he really did talk about the fact that there are so many things happening in the world now that people just have no idea about, like conflicts, whether they are, again, like they just said, like physical wars, or they are, like political power struggles and things like that. I feel like the stuff that we are told about is basically as good as a charade, or it's like kayfabe. It's almost like wrestling in a way, but underneath there is some kind of like very deep, dark, and real storyline that is playing out. But we are just kind of getting this like charade version to kind of just like appease the people. But I think it runs far deeper than, what we get told about in the news.
there's a lot of people that...
Sorry, and I'll also say there's definitely another side to the story. I think that's important too. Like we are hearing the news from our perspective, right? Like the perspective of our own country. And there are no good people in war, right? There are no good. Sometimes there's a better side, but I think war, there's no real good people in war. So I think you're always getting a skewed perspective as well, which I think is important to remember.
Are now aware of the technology that I'm discussing. That back then it was a small number of people that knew about this technology. Okay. And so anybody that is participating in this, I can't say what I know, but I can certainly exercise my free will and try to make it go one way or the other. Um, there's people trying to create the end of the world, and there's people preparing for the end of the world and, surviving it. Um, the people that are preparing for the end of the world know about it and are trying to prevent it would be called the white hats. The people in favor of ending the world and covering up the mistakes of the elites and the politicians are what you say the black hats.
So the people who believe in the end of the world and want it to happen wear black hats. How big are those hats? Do we have a size estimate on these black hats, the people who believe in the end of the world and want it to happen? Do we have a measurement? Black hat is a term. Oh, come on, AJ. Let us have a bit of fun, mate. I know. Okay, we're just having a laugh, all right? We don't need to get so serious.
The people that are stuck in
Are they cube-shaped by any chance? Are they small black cubes?
the middle, that's pretty much 99% of the population.
Yeah.
We don't have any choice in what's going on.
But we do, don't we? By exercising our free will for a better future.
That is what I'm trying to get people to understand.
No, I think people are really getting that message. When it comes
I
to
do
the
too.
positive timeline, were you able to see, or do you remember any specific events that would be seen as negative that we're still going to have to endure, even if the positive timeline comes off?
The possibility always exists that we don't have to endure a negative circumstance to affect the change to timeline 1. I don't know how to put it any other way.
I think I do,
yes,
because this is actually
there
getting
are
quite esoteric.
1,000 cataclysmic possibilities, and we have avoided every one of them to date. Every one of them. Some people would say that's a miracle. I would say it's fate.
You touched on something on Saturday, which I don't know, twigged something with me because of conversations that I've had recently, and that was
Yeah,
in the sense
love
of
doing that.
yeah, how can I put it? The creation and I think you talked about it in terms of paradox, but you were saying that out of the negative events, it's when we get into that negative or when we get into the darkness that we balance it back into the light. So what you just said then reminded me of that, in that we may not need a negative event to bounce from into the positive. So because it's only through cataclysm and change and hardship that we go, where's the light? I want more, I want hope, and yeah, all of that.
That's interesting. Maybe some people believe, maybe some people believe that the only way to truly fix the world into a positive place is to collectively show people how dark it can be, so that people actually then use their own free will to be like, I can't live this way. I need to be a better person. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, maybe there is a collective, like, reverse psychology type deal to make people, because you can't change free will, right? People have to sort of make these decisions themselves, but no one's going to do it unless they don't actually feel like they have to or like they're desperate. I wonder if people think that the best way to do that is to like show people like how bad it can be, push them to like the brink of extinction, to make people be like, okay, I need to start making better choices about life and how I go about treating the earth and treating other people. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but like it's could be. Also could be. JL Lammy says there was an order and Sophia broke it. Thank you, JL. Fly Ether says, hope all is well, brother. Have you touched on the CIA's ghost murmur quantum tech that tracks your heartbeat? Nice to see you, by the way, Fly. Hope you're well as well. Yes, I saw them talk about it. So ghost murmur is this thing where they can basically detect your heartbeat as long as you have a heartbeat in the right conditions. They can find you via your heartbeat, and they announced this because of a downed fighter pilot in Iran, and they're saying that they're going to find him using this ghost murmur tech. And I just find that really interesting that like it gets announced then, but not when you have a missing Air Force general. Why don't you? Why when your 4-star or whatever he was Air Force general went missing, were you not like, don't worry guys, we have ghost murmur. Okay, we can use ghost murmur to detect heartbeat, so we'll find this man who basically dedicated his entire life and career to serving this country. No, just war. Unlucky general. Thanks for your service. Better luck next lifetime. And Rambro's gifted a membership as well. Thank you very much, Rambro. Appreciate you, brother.
Okay.
The reality is we need balance.
Balance.
We don't need extreme positive or extreme negative to affect this change in consciousness or this evolution in consciousness. What we're trying to achieve is no more dualities. So the absence of the positive and the negative to where there is only balance.
What do you think World War III with Iran is all about then? Do you think that's pure propaganda in order to just drag us into a place of panic and fear? Or do you actually think they're going to try and pull it off?
Okay, this is one thing that I touched on that I got as close to it as I could during the interview without saying it.
So this must be one of the things that Bill said he didn't want to talk about and that Kerry pushed him on, was to do with World War III with Iran.
I gave a website during the interview, and Kerry commented on it. Oh, that's the Russian scientist. Yes. If Iran produced and was ready to reveal this level of technology that everybody in America would go, hey, if Iran has it, that means we have it. And if they had, the ability to show off this technology, it would be really, really, really bad for America. So what do? We lie, just like we always do. We paint the weapons of mass destruction label on it and say, we're going to blow it up. That's what we're blowing up.
What
There's
technology
no
specifically?
UFO, ET technology, things that we wouldn't even come close to understanding because it's been suppressed for more than half a century. So we look at it as this technology that doesn't exist except for, what space aliens would give us. Yet Nikola Tesla was pioneering this technology in the very beginning of the 1900s. It's impossible to believe that this evolution of technology just stopped in 1970.
No. Well, I think even Nikola Tesla said that he was he got some of his information from a friend from the stars or some such thing.
So did all of them. Not all of them, but like so many people at the cutting edge of like science or rocketry, all through their own lens, basically say, I got this information given to me through a meditation, through a download, through a ritual, through practicing Enochian magic, right? Like they all have their own little version of like getting into this trance flow state where they then say, yeah, it just kind of came to me. It just kind of came to me. And then you've got all of these artists. Oh, shit. Whoops. Sorry. Never mind that. I destroyed my fan for a second. As I was saying, then you have all of these artists who are basically saying the same thing, right? They're saying their songs, their music, the inspiration for ideas is just coming to them. It's like all of this stuff is like there. It's all, there's like an invisible field that's there always kind of waiting to be tapped into. But because we can't see it, no one cares. Like no one wants to believe it. But the people who actually like get there and do the work, like they know it. Akashic record. Exactly, Dusty. Exactly. Draco's gifted 5 memberships. Draco, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Let's get some love in the chat, guys. Big fiver.
And more that seems to have been happening, because what I'm learning about free energy and this technology is that people all over the world that have never met, and if you've seen Thrive, Foster Gamble backs this up, are inventing technology. But none of them have ever had any contact with each other, yet they're creating the same technology in dozens of different places all over the world. There's something to that. If people are evolving their consciousness to such a level that they are given these revelations about how to create this technology, if you don't call it divine, I don't know what else you can call it. If it's talking telepathically to space aliens, then that's what it is. If it's communing with your higher self, and your higher self communes with other higher selves that aren't of this planet, then that's what it is. I'm not going to pretend to understand it. I'm only going to say that it's easily demonstrated that dozens of people throughout the world, because of my investigations, are creating virtually the same level of advanced technology that would blow people's minds.
Now, there's a lot coming out now about Tesla and what he did, and what he was capable of doing, and what he claimed he could do. And that's not going to stay secret for very much longer. I just want to ask you another question about the timelines. If we call timeline 1 the positive and timeline 2 the negative.
Correct.
In timeline 1, we hit this wall, humanity awakens, and those that are in what we call the elite, they karma catches up with them basically, and they pay the price.
Let me suggest that karma should catch up with them way before the end of time. I don't want to say the end of time, because that scares the hell out of people. But before we eliminate timeline 2, I believe that the elite's wheel of karma will come around to such a point that they have to pay. They need time to pay for their karma before that process is ended. So yes.
So we would be looking at something like that in the next few months to start.
Man, I would hope so. That's what I'm trying to push for happening, because it's all about free will.
So in timeline 2, they find a way around the wall, and they get to implement what we've come to call Prison Planet, and just keep on keeping on, getting away with it all, and then the one world order is fulfilled. Is that
essentially? Basically, in timeline 2, to my best understanding, is the world splits into 2 groups. The elites and the people in the know go underground and stay underground for the rest of time. But, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And there's a group that survives, much smaller, on the surface of the planet. And they go on in a much different way, but duality never ceases to exist. I'm sure they're given another opportunity 26,000 years later, and everybody's allowed to get off the third density, roller coaster eventually. But certainly the evidence that I've seen suggests that there is a reality that does exist that is not our reality that has this happen.
An alternative reality.
Basically. And right now there's many alternative realities based on the infinite number of possibilities and free will being exercised.
What if that's just like the cycle of things, right? Because we've talked about how, I mean, look, I think there is another intelligent species here on Earth. That's just my opinion. you know, if you want to call them aliens, whatever you want to call them, I think there is something sort of living alongside us, maybe multiple things, I don't know. And I think, you know, this is just my opinion, I think it lives like underground, under ocean, in mountains, in places that are not easily accessible by humans. This is what I think. And because I guess if you begin to master this technology that almost allows you to kind of like create reality, bend, manipulate, create gravity, right? Like you can essentially like do anything. I think with that level of understanding of physics, you can almost kind of like construct reality to some degree. And I think with that technology, you know, living under the ocean, living in a mountain, like all of this stuff becomes like easy. It becomes far easier. So realizing that the surface of the earth is perhaps like unstable, not the safest, you're surrounded by a bunch of plebs who hate you, i.e., us, against the elite upper class people who we feel like are gatekeeping this technology. What if that sort of like next step is to just go underground, like to go sort of break away and live somewhere else, and then the people who are staying on the surface survive and sort of begin to reseed and start the next lot, the next harvest, the next crop. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Just spitballing some ideas that come to my head when I hear this one. Toxic Fart says, Josh, what color is your hat you're wearing? Clayton, this is a dark blue hat. Thank you very much. Build on Sound says, Polarity merch. Get your merch at the merch store. Thank you very much, Build on Sound. Yeah, if you want to get some merch, the link is below. And while you're there, you may as well like the video if you're enjoying it. If you hate it, if you hate me and you hate this video and you're having a shit time, by all means, don't do it. But if you're not, if you're having a good time, please do. It would help a lot.
It's very complicated. String theory. It's all string theory. I could point you to the physicists that could tell you all about it, and they would lose you in about 5 seconds. But yes.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, are you familiar with David Icke's work?
You love David
yes.
Icke. He's
Okay.
one of my favorites.
Oh, there we go. Bill Wood, ladies and gentlemen. A fan of Uncle David. You love to hear it.
So, from his perspective, the very top of the pyramid of this elite hierarchy are fourth dimensional reptilians, right? So I don't know whether you've had any experience with that in your official capacity.
I have a really easy way of defining it. There's many, many words that are used to do that. But as we progress into the fourth density, there becomes an existence that has unconditional love, or the absence of fear, or lack of duality. But then there's a choice in between that level as well, and it's service to self and service to others. The reptilians, I would call the service to self people. Yes.
It feels like he is really reading from the raw material, the Law of One. Now, I haven't read all of it, but from what I have read, he's using a lot of the same terminology, and the concepts and ideas are almost identical. And I'm not saying he's just reciting it or reading it, but it seems like it's perhaps influenced his belief, perhaps. Or maybe things that he learned actually align with the stuff that's in the Law of One as well.
But this is going to sound like a really convoluted esoteric question.
That's okay. I'm good at those.
Okay. This is getting back to the point we were on before about the darkness kind of being a necessary catalyst to bring in the light, and that if it's the darkness, or if it's the beings of dark, or the beings of negativity, or the beings of service to self, if it's actually their objective to lose, and by what I mean by that is create darkness in order for the light to come in so that the light ultimately wins, they win by losing. Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
If it's your objective to lose the game, then you win by losing the game.
It's very easy to see it that way, and I'll explain.
But there's more to the question.
Right. If you don't know what darkness is,
Yes.
then you have no understanding of light.
Exactly.
Light just is. If there is no night, you have no day. If there is no black, you have no white. If you don't understand the opposites in the game, then you can't understand this reason for duality. And yes, the even the reptilians understand a lack of duality. They understand unconditional love. They live by it. But they do enjoy the fact that we do give our power to them if we choose to. And we choose to when they understand this concept of duality way better than us, so they're able to instill fear to cause us to basically enslave ourselves. And they also understand that that we are evolving, that this will eventually come to an end, which is why it's permitted or allowed, or a certain level of letting us exercise our free will without interference of the higher dimensions can exist. Do they take advantage of the rules? Yeah, they take advantage of the rules. But they understand they're part of the solution. Yes. They see their role.
Do you think that they ultimately have an investment in timeline one coming off as well, and that it's purely the human element here that's at the top that has the investment in timeline two?
If you could put it any better way, I don't know how. That was a beautiful explanation.
Oh, okay.
They
Thank
do
you.
have an investment of our evolution, just as every other member of this galaxy does.
That is okay. That's confirmation for me on a personal level. So that's good.
It's tough to understand, but you understand it, so that's really cool.
You alluded to something on Saturday, which I want to make sure I understood because it was a bit of a paradox
Okay.
that, or creates one anyway, that in more recent times for you, there's a theory floating around that the reason you specifically were brought in to do this work and to study this data was that they believed, whoever was in charge, that you were going to play a part in a catalyzing event that precipitates the awakening.
Correct.
Correct. The paradox is, by bringing you in and giving you access to the information, they've given you something to then come out with.
They unknowingly created a paradox, yes. And by
It's the sort of thing that does your head in every time you watch a time travel film. It's like
okay, let me make it easy because it's easy to understand, and you've already done it. But I'll just simplify it. What the lesson of the Looking Glass is every time you create a negative paradox to try and change things, you also created its opposite, and it's a concept of holodynamics. Vern's a very good teacher of that. But by trying to create a reality that doesn't exist, you also create the solution inherently to that paradox. When you create a negative, its positive will exist somewhere in time and space in the same density. It's hard for the people in charge with all the money to understand this concept because they're very selfish and self-serving and just demand results without understanding reality. I think everybody can understand that.
Yep.
And so, yes, it's kind of funny that inherently, by doing what they've done, they continue to create the paradox that eliminates that eventuality. And This is what scientists pointed out to them over and over and over and over and over again, and why it comes down to just timeline one. Because every smart PhD, way crazy smarter than me, told them the same thing. You can't prevent fate. You can't prevent the end of this lesson called duality from its eventual conclusion.
Looks like our resident Bible bashers have arrived in the chat. Welcome, guys. Take a seat. Please refrain from typing in capital letters while you let everyone know that everyone else is wrong and that your opinion is the correct one. I would usher everyone who thinks what they are hearing here is just crazy, silly talk and it's all just ridiculous. Google Dunning-Kruger, okay? Just Google Dunning-Kruger, have a read, and just, take a deep breath, see if you can let that sink in for a moment. Open Door Policy Podcast says, they say don't go into the light. When you do, the Archons tempt. Apparently, you need to say I refuse and contracts or agreements made under amnesia. Okay, thank you for the advice. I'll try to remember that as I head towards the light. Hopefully not anytime soon, though. Attempted Human says Earth is 26,000 light years from the black hole at the center of the galaxy, thus the 26,000-year cycle. Thinking this has something to do with it. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Thank you, bro. Lost Cause for 7 months says, always hyped to catch a live stream. Thank you very much, Lost Cause. Pleasure to have you here. Open Door Policy says, makes you wonder if the Hopi ant people were the first to go underground for the same sins we have today. Was the redemption? Was that the redemption arc? They said light skin gave fire underground that long would do that. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, the ant people, the chambers, for lack of a better word, at Derinkuyu. There's so much evidence to underground civilizations, societies that perhaps fled or hid or something like that. It's interesting stuff for sure. Ignior, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you for the huge super chat. They said, hey, Josh, there's a guy I want you to meet. He's got a YouTube channel called The Simulated Leviathan. I think he'll like you and his content as well. Thank you for the huge super chat. We did a creator shout out for The Simulated Leviathan about 2 weeks ago. We watched one of his videos. I think he's a great creator, and he's also on the list of people that I've reached out to come on the show for a podcast who never replied to me. It's a long list. I genuinely seem to get ignored a lot, but that's okay because everyone has their own lives and we're all busy, and sometimes we just miss emails because life gets out of our hands and away from us. Okay, I understand this. But he is on that list. Open Door Policy Podcast says, talk about the double M mark and crescents of the palms, the chosen. Okay, thank you very much. Let's continue on because we are going to run over time.
Which is that we understand the purpose of duality.
So,
and the purpose of duality is to teach us unconditional love, that we are all made of the same energy, the same divine information. I want to use the right word that's easiest to understand for everyone, not just for the spiritual people. We are created of the same information. And there is something out there that has all the information. And because if you have all the information, you know best.
Yeah, 1 sec.
In knowing best, you know that your creations, if they are given their free will eventually learn what they need to learn to transcend a lack of understanding. And when that lack of understanding takes place, we don't go back. We achieve this knowledge that makes it so we can no longer deny the truth. We would never ever believe in weapons of mass destruction. Therefore, there would never be another Iraq. It's that kind of thing. That is a seminal lesson in our history. We as Americans, not you guys, but we as Americans discovered concrete in, most people's memory that our government lies to us, and they will continue to lie to us. And now people are taking a look at the events of 9/11 going, you know what? I don't believe that Building 7 fell down due to structural loss. And that's one of the things that I've been chastising ex-Navy SEALs about, is they're all demolition experts. Every one of us look at those videos and go, that ain't right. that shouldn't have happened. That's completely wrong. Buildings do not lose structural integrity throughout the building all at once unless somebody did it on purpose. So yeah, there's plenty of people out there that would just state, and there's plenty of information on documentary videos of demolitions experts from different countries that were shown Building 7 and not told what it was, and says, what is this? Oh, that's the demolition of a building. Do you know this is Building 7? You're kidding.
I actually last year on the anniversary had a conversation with several people, and it came out they didn't know anything about Building 7. What's Building 7? I nearly fell over. But
well, a news reporter in the BBC didn't know that Building 7 was in a live shot right behind her when she announced its destruction.
Yeah, 20 minutes before it came down.
Huge oops!
Yep. So
yeah, lots of anomalies that I can point out, but until people start accepting reality, reality is what we define it as.
So what it sounds like in it.
So I love the topics that they're kind of touching on now, because it comes back to things that we talk about it so much on this channel, in that, like, just collectively what we agree upon is what reality is. Like, that things only have the meaning that we all collectively agree upon and apply to it. Like, it all just starts in our belief and our, yeah, like a collective understanding on what something is. But that's just us doing that. Like, we project meaning and belief onto things. It's so mind-bending, and then you realize that, like, nothing, it feels like nothing will ever change unless we can all agree on something. Because if we don't agree, then we're always just going to be, there's always going to be this, like, friction and, like, this conflict and struggle to, like, unify. So, like, we have to all find something that we collectively agree on that will bring people together and, like, unified and focused on, like, a common goal. And that's why I believe that so much of this, like, bullshit that comes out through politics now, like, you know, mind virus type stuff, woke agendas and ideologies, like, all of this shit just seems like fluff, artificial chaos and noise that has been designed to create, to, like, I think, like, splinter is a better word, like, splinter our belief systems. Because before, things were, like, very black and white in a sense. It was, like, very kind of clear, like, what is right, what is wrong, what is a boy, what is a girl, like, just normal things like this, right? And then it's like they've taken these simple ideas that were very clear and defined and, like, splintered them. And now within that one idea, you can have 10 separate beliefs, all within what was just once, like, a commonly understood idea. Now that belief system is fractured into 10. So now even people who once agreed on this one thing, now even they can't unify. They can't get along because that one idea has now been splintered into 10 subcategories and sub-beliefs. And it feels like it feels like this is applied to so many areas in our life. And it just creates chaos, and it just halts any kind of unification of people coming together to, like, improve their life and our life collectively, because we take on our belief systems as, like, our personality and our identity. So anything against that feels like a personal attack, which is obviously retarded. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about you guys here. We're obviously all better than that here. Okay. We're a bit more aware than that. But that is what's going on, I believe. KK Loco, thank you very much for gifting 10 memberships. That's an extremely generous amount, and I appreciate you very much. And Nicole with a $100 super chat. Man, you guys are insane. Nicole, thank you so much. That's huge. She says, love this community. Keep up the amazing work. I show up for the content, but live for your replies to the haters. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. And yeah, I can't thank you enough. I'm glad you enjoyed the light roastings that occur every now and then as well. Kelly Hall says, amen. Thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate you. All right, let's keep going with this thing. We're going overtime tonight.
Even a simpler language, is that timeline 1 is inevitable. It's part of the plan. It's the divine plan. And every time they
Yep.
tried to mess with it, all they actually did was strengthen it.
Hmm.
That the opposite just went in and strengthened it.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's difficult to accept that, there are realities out there that don't produce this lesson being learned. Um, but from every indication that I get and see, and everything that I've seen in the last 10 years, the lessons that we are being taught lead up to this, you know, divine transition where we understand that this world is not reality, that it is just as real as the dream world that we enter when we fall asleep. And it's simply a way of us learning a divine lesson.
Hmm.
And when that
Damn.
divine lesson is achieved, we transcend into something that we really want to do.
So do you see this wall in December
Mhm.
as a specific event on a specific day, or do you see it as a gradual thing that happens, or that's
Here
been
we
happening
go.
and will continue to happen until that time? I mean, why that day? I mean, is something magical going to
Um,
happen on that day?
I don't think it's the day per se, but I do, from my understanding, see that it does occur around that time. And
So there is a
there is some,
moment. There is a
yes,
moment.
yes. And basically, when there's some correlation to the crossing of the galactic plane and the energies that are being introduced into the planet right now and into every being on the planet. And they are definitely making changes.
Hmm.
And
Interesting. So he's basically saying that it's that there is some kind of event, which doesn't necessarily mean like a cataclysm, by the way. The first thing I thought of when he's talking about crossing the galactic plane and like new energies and frequencies being introduced to the planet, the first thing that popped into my head was, when was the first 3-eye atlas? Because the 3 on 3-eye atlas stands for the third, and I is interstellar. 3-eye atlas was the third interstellar giant object that we have had. The second one was Oumuamua, which was around 20. Oh God, when was Oumuamua? I feel like it was like 2015, 2016, maybe 2018. I think it was maybe 2018, 2017, somewhere around there. What does anyone know when the first one was? Was the first one around 2012? Because if it was, I just got more interested in 3-eye atlas. When was the first one?
and those changes are causing an evolutionary process to either speed up outrageously fast or are leading to an inevitable conclusion that we don't understand. And
Oumuamua was the first. Really? What was the second one? I don't remember hearing anything about a second one. I just remember Oumuamua and then 3-eye atlas, and that they often seem to draw comparisons between 3-eye atlas and Oumuamua, which is weird. Why don't they talk about the second one? Borisov? Second was Borisov? Interesting. I haven't heard much about that. Why doesn't that one get talked about?
it's tough to get that we are going to learn so much in less than a year that we are going to be able to evolve our consciousness. But I think it's easy to also point out that in metaphor terms, caterpillars are consumers for a very long time. And I've been using the term caterpillars. We are caterpillars of information. We can.
Because Borisov wasn't weird, it was basically just a typical comet. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, my interest in 3-eye atlas has gone back to zero. Fantastic.
Consume and consume and consume and consume until we get so bloated that we form this, we fall asleep and form this cocoon. And for a very short period of time, we stay in this cocoon, and then we burst out and turn into something else. I think the rest of the galaxy is kind of waiting to see what comes out of the cocoon. Because they, like we know, butterflies emerge from the cocoon. That's kind of the process that we're going through now. It is that kind of inevitability where everybody that's been through the butterfly process knows what happens, but we don't. We're going through it. We don't understand what's happening inside the cocoon. But I think everybody would also understand, if you use that metaphor, to understand the way life is right now, that the forces of good and evil are really hammering away at each other right now. And it does seem that there could easily be this eventuality where this balance is achieved. And we do understand that it's our own illusions that we're creating right now that lead us to believe that we aren't more powerful than we are. We give up our free will in order to believe in certain things that make us comfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's who we are.
Put that on a t-shirt. Let's get some love in the chat just to reinforce an awesome positive message like that. Carl Lepart gifted 5 memberships as well. Carl, legend, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. And Christopher Fay also gifted one as well. Guys, thank you very much for the generosity. And welcome to all of the new weirdos. Make sure you come and join Discord, connect your YouTube, and hang out in the best corner of the internet.
In terms of what you're recommending for people to do, or how to behave and how to think between now and the end of the year, to summarize that, it's basically to make your decisions based on what we said before, service to others perspective, to let go of fear.
Yep.
And every time we do that, we reinforce timeline 1.
Correct. Faster. Eventually, we are going to give up our fear, and we are going to be more service to others. Whatever negative events press us to that, it's going to happen. So if we just accept it now and start trying, like a person that's really overweight, if they can accept that the only way that they're going to fix the problem is to start eating better and exercising, they won't have to get any more out of shape before they make the decision. Now, everybody's like, well, what if you never make the decision? Overweight person faces the inevitable consequences and dies. Well, what if you can't die? There's no dying in this process. There is an evolutionary process that if one person dies, it doesn't end the evolutionary process. The process is always ongoing and always has been ongoing. We can't just stop the process. And again, that's what I learned in Looking Glass. It's a bunch of scientists looking at a spiritual problem and trying to convince people that there is no scientific answer.
Okay. So in terms of what happens between now and then, world events, were you able to see anything specific? I know you've talked about the idea that
Many things, yeah.
that new technologies will be brought out and so on. But what about, is there anything that people can look to as a confirmation that you know will happen because you saw it in Looking Glass and it was a really strong image and it's an inevitability, just as a sign?
She's asking great questions, by the way. I love that.
This is what I saw. This is what I believe is going to happen. That's confirmation we're on the right timeline.
Right. I pointed it out. Resource scarcity ceases to exist. The fact that we're dependent on petrochemicals is an illusion.
So you think that's actually going to come about this year?
Yep.
Oh, it has to.
So it's not after the awakening. That's not something that happens afterwards. That's before.
No. This is a step in the process. This has to happen. Because resource scarcity is something that keeps us in fear. And distracted. If you're too worried about earning a paycheck and getting enough money to provide the resources to survive, you don't have time to take care of your spirituality. You don't have time to figure out the things that people are figuring out right now all over the world.
I think we should take a moment to just appreciate what he just said, because I feel like it's so easy for people to be hard on themselves for like not doing enough and thinking that they like need to do better, or they need to, they should be meditating more, they should be doing XYZ to improve their like mental state. And I think it's like important to highlight the fact that you are trying to do these things while you are caught in a system that is basically designed to stop you, and not stop you directly, but to keep you so busy that you don't really have a chance to do that. Because once you start doing those things, you begin to realize how sort of dysfunctional and inhumane the system actually is that you're in. And it almost feels like the system itself relies on the fact that people are too busy to become aware of that. Because if we did gain that awareness, and like that's what this is all about, right? Once enough people gain this awareness, that it feels like we are on the journey too. I mean, more and more people are becoming aware every day. Once enough people have this awareness, it's probably going to collapse, right? Because people are just going to be like, do I want to go to work 40 hours a week to pay taxes to a bunch of pedophiles? No. I think I won't do that this week. And then eventually enough people will do that. And then the crusty old men who are up in their towers going, yes, yes, send all your children to go and die in this war for me. Yes, no, my children have a medical exemption, though. Sorry, they can't go. But yes, yes, everyone else go and die for me in this war. People will go, actually, no, fuck you. I don't want to do that. And then they'll be like, oh, wait, no one wants to go to war for me. Oh, I guess I'll have to go do it myself. And then obviously the people will evict them, and we will put them on public trial. And then the new world will spawn. Then the new world will spawn where we have flying cars and the cities are decorated with lush greenery. Okay, that is what the Polarity compound is going to look like. Okay, we have limited spots, and we will be selling seeds at 10 times the price to our competitors.
But the elite are making things so bad that people are out of work. And when people are out of work, what are they doing with their time? Well, they're studying spirituality and they're coming up with these answers. And they're seeing that they do have the capability, even though times are really, really tough, aka the negative, that they have the ability to create the positive by having hope.
Do hippies not have jobs because they're hippies, or are they hippies because they don't have jobs? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like when you see all these hippies, it's like, oh, you guys you just smoke weed in a park all day and you're all like aware and stuff. Get a job. It's like, no, not having a job allowed me to gain the awareness. You know what I mean? It doesn't actually work the way people think it does. It's the reverse.
And then they start to believe in hope, and then they start to create hope, and then good things happen in their lives, so they keep going. And after they get a job, they're not going to stop creating and believing in hope. So, they start to, figure out good things for humanity and blah, blah, blah. You can see how it goes. It's funny, but it's just an inevitable resistance towards polarity. And it is.
He said the word.
It's a balance that's being achieved. And I've tested this theory by going out and asking people if they would donate $1 to change the world. And you would be shocked at how many people are able to believe in change so much and to be guided to change so much, and yet don't understand how such a simple act of free will changes things. It doesn't change my monetary condition, but it changes something in their mind where they say, I'm about changing the world. I think that can happen. now that they believe that change the world can happen, they start creating it in their lives. And that radiates out to their families and their friends. And it's just going to pick up momentum like crazy now. So I've I can not only speak to what I know from Looking Glass about it, I can speak to what I know about my scientific conclusions on it, and saying that there is a tremendous number of people throughout the world, not just America, but throughout the world, that are saying, you know what, I believe in change. I'm done with all this being in fear of a bunch of stuff that I've later figured out was bull. I
Well,
was
the
scared
Occupy
of
movement's
weapons.
global, and
Yes, that is a perfect example. When that happened, I was jumping up and cheering and saying, "Woo, timeline one! It's happening." That is an evolution of consciousness. That is people standing up and saying, "We're poor because you make us poor. We're poor because you create the money. Money is an illusion that you've gotten us to believe in. We shouldn't have money. We should have prosperity." Thrive is another perfect example of people waking up and seeing that. It spells it out how the illusion works with money, and
Babylonian money magic.
shows us how to change. And it is going like gangbusters right now too. There's many, many examples out there throughout the world. If you get down to the individual level, free energy. There's tens of thousands of people out there that have created some device that is down the avenue of free energy that creates energy, water, food, transportation, and shelter without much time or inconvenience, and can be offered to the world very easily. That's going to continue to grow until it takes off on a global basis.
in America, you've got a presidential election coming up this year. From Looking Glass, is there anything you can say about that?
I wouldn't. There's plenty of timelines that exist on who would be the president next.
Wasn't Hillary told she was going to be in 2012?
Yes, that is, again, plenty of timelines still exist right now. Plenty of ways of getting to our inevitable destination exist still. To be able to sit down and say, I know that this person's going to be president, would be wrong, because I already know of events that somebody said knew took place, that the possibility was so outrageous that you would go to Vegas and put $1 million down on this bet, and it didn't happen. The small possibility of something else happening happened. And so I've gotten done trying to understand, the path that's going to lead to the destination.
But ultimately, the path doesn't matter. The destination is inevitable.
That's exactly the point. Our destination is inevitable. We are trying to get somewhere. The journey is the fun part, but the journey is what it is. We can take any path on our journey to the destination, but eventually we're going to be led to our destination because we're going to eliminate paths to our destination on our journey.
He's basically saying that real disclosure is the friends that we made along the way. Okay? It's about the journey, people, not the destination. And the real disclosure is all of the weirdos you met along the way in the live chat. That is disclosure.
We can make the journey or the path to our destination easier and easier and easier by constantly choosing love or choosing
seemingly easier.
Seemingly
or
easier.
Seemingly harder. Certainly, it would be easily argued by me that I have chosen a very hard path, and that the consequences of my choices were hard. But my understanding of hard in this reality is that usually the hard path, the quote-unquote hard path, is the correct one. And that's done because people that understand the journey better know that if they can keep us running around on these paths that are easy but eventually lead back to the path that we need to take to get to our destination, it's going to take longer and it's going to be harder to get to our destination. Um, but
Understood. Yeah.
yes, if it's the theory of like a rich man. It's easier for a rich man to get to heaven than it is to pass a camel through the eye of a needle. We've been taught these things
Sorry, what? Has anyone else ever heard that saying before? He listed that off like it's a classic saying. I've never, ever heard that.
over and over and over again. Yet, in my life, when I gave up all of my material possessions in
It's in the Bible. There you go. I told you guys, although I do talk about religion a lot and I am interested in it, I'm not religious. I've never read the Bible.
concentrating on this belief that I have that we could affect this positive change now, today, and that would make life for everybody much, much easier. It's been arduous. I mean, it's been hard for me. I'm not going
It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Right, so that's a quote from the Bible. Than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Is there like a sort of commonly agreed, because the Bible is generally like it's not the direct meaning. What do they mean rich as in wealth, like money, or something else? And what is the idea behind like what that really means? Is it basically saying like money is not important?
to lie. I have many times questioned how much harder this journey would get before I found some relief. Well, now I've found the relief. Now I've got some good things going for me, and some real gifts are coming in my life that make my journey much easier. And I'm kind of trying to use that as an example to everybody else.
Oh, good. I'm glad things are looking up.
Yeah, so it's about wealth and things like that. Basically saying that money has no value. Okay, interesting. The thing I wonder about that is though, it's like, well, but does wealth make you a bad person though? Like, I think, can people not have money? And also, like, who determines what wealth is? Like, a middle class person is wealthy to a lower class person, right? And then upper class to middle. You know what I mean? Like, it's all relative. Money corrupts your heart. I think it definitely can. I do think humans are seem to be extremely susceptible to corruption. That's what it seems like anyway. Like, it just, when you look at politics and things like that. And I don't want to detract too much, but I've spoken about how I think a lot of the corruption in politics perhaps comes from the fact that these people become so far removed from normal people, and the people that surround them is, people in suits, big corporations, people who are trying to vie for like lobby for their own interests, and there's money becoming involved. I feel like it would be hard to even your distinction of like what is morally right or wrong would start to become really distorted, because the things that start to feel normal when you're in those circles are probably actually not normal at all, but it's so rampant that what feels like corruption actually just feels like your job in a way. I feel like that's probably what happens with a lot of these politicians. And don't get me wrong, there's some absolute, just straight up corrupt, terrible people as well, 100%.
The easiest way to fight darkness is with light. And now that the situation is out in the open, and 250,000 people know about it, it would be very tough to do things and not have everybody understand or give confirmation to anything that I'm saying. Right now, the goal is discreditation, and undermining my credibility. You might get called a kook, but that's about the worst thing that's going
Oh,
to
believe me,
happen.
this is not the kookiest interview I've done.
So, based on your background, I don't think there's any problems because you are just putting another person on the air that's, they can just point to you and say, she's just doing the same thing that she always does, putting kooks on the air. And that
Yeah, who would do that? Who would do that? That sounds like a terrible idea.
gives them more ammunition to say, see, Bill's a kook. He's going on another kook show. if I was, doing a Rachel Maddow show, well, that would be.
Is this a kook show? Am I in that same category? Christopher Fay, I think we did that one. Thank you again. Carl Leppard says, though we focus a lot on negatives, many of us should take a look at the beauty. It's a massive part of the polarity. Beautiful comment, Carl, and I agree with you 100% as well that it is easier. And I don't know why that is. I feel like maybe because maybe it is just pushed in front of us more and it feels normal in a way. But taking moments to be grateful and like gratitude and appreciate like the beauty and the things that we do have, because we all do have things in our life to be grateful for. That has to be like a conscious thing that you need to do. And then eventually, it becomes second nature like anything. But I do think that really is so important.
An entirely different thing. But right now, the best thing that anybody could do for themselves and me to ensure a much better world is to keep bringing the subject up and bringing things to light. And what's happening right now behind the scenes that nobody can see, but I can, is that people are coming out. Their stories are coming out. We may not be able to put them on the air, but they give us more information that we wouldn't otherwise have. And when we get that information, we're using it. And it's like a puzzle. We're putting these pieces that people are giving us together and creating a whole picture. I'll be the front man. I'll go up and say, this is what we found out, and continue to bring more and more light onto the situation until eventually enough people's understanding of what's really going on reaches a critical mass, and then understanding becomes, more than just, a bunch of kooks conspiracy theories. It becomes reality. And the thing is it is reality. The illusion is what we believe in, is what we watch on TV, is what we see on the news and what we're told. There's a lot of people that use the words they say. They say this, they say that, without ever actually knowing who they are. The people that are attacking me on the internet right now are, for the vast majority, nameless faces and nameless voices. And they are saying a bunch of stuff about me that they know. But in all reality, there's no knowledge. A bunch of ex-Navy SEALs are saying, and I hate using that word, but former Navy SEALs, and will continue to be Navy SEALs throughout their life. And that's my kudo to them, because every Navy SEAL that completes training and participates in a program can't get away from that training, which is something somebody pointed out to me, and it's going to make me able to prove I was a Navy SEAL eventually. We can talk about that in a second. But they say they know that there's no SEAL Team 9. How do they know?
It's like trying to prove a negative, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly it. They're trying to prove the absence of a SEAL Team 9. Well, the fact that the number 9 exists between 8 and 10 certainly leads people to the conclusion that there probably is a SEAL Team 9 that nobody knows about. Just like up until like 6 months ago, there was no SEAL Team 6. Even though We later found out in history that SEAL Team 6 actually existed. They were a top secret team that eventually led to an attack that captured and killed Osama bin Laden, quote unquote. But we don't even know that happened. We were told that. We didn't get any video. We didn't get any evidence. We didn't get any proof. We just got a news report. And that news report was reported on by other news agencies, and it spread like wildfire until everybody knows, A, SEAL Team 6 exists now, and we kind of just overlooked that fact, that they didn't exist until then, and B, that Osama bin Laden's dead. Well, who's to say he wasn't dead for a really, really long time before that? Who's to say he isn't still alive? We don't have any proof. Zero. But everybody that you ask will say, I know SEAL Team 6 exists, and I know that bin Laden's dead. Why?
Because you just believe what you're told, like a good little taxpayer, right? You just believe what you're told and you repeat it like it's fact because you trust the people that tell you. I had an interesting conversation with Chris about this, Chris Ramsey, that'll be coming out soon, where he was basically saying that, like, you know, he believes Australia exists, but he doesn't know it. Like, he just believes it because that's what he's told, and there is some evidence there to suggest that it is real. So he believes that it's real, but he can't actually know it. And people often talk about things like they know them, but in reality, they've never actually verified it themselves. They're kind of just parroting things that they've heard, and then it kind of becomes like a, you know, solidified as fact, when in reality a lot of the people who agree on it have probably never actually verified it. Like the globe earth. Yep, exactly. How far do you take that? Now look, I'm not a flat earther, but who actually knows that the earth is round? Have you seen it yourself? Have you been up in space? No, we're just kind of like believing things. Now, I do think the earth is round. Let me just be clear. I do think we live in a globe earth, but I believe it. I don't know it.
They were
By the
told
TV.
simply that. Yeah, the TV. It's funny that people just don't pick up on this about what they know and what they don't know.
Oh, I think people are getting more and more savvy every day.
And we call that the awakening process, where people start to understand that, wait a minute, just because I'm told something, that doesn't make it true.
Is there anything you really want to leave people with? If you had to define the Bill Wood message, what is it?
It's very simple. We do not understand who we are right now. We are who we are because of our level of understanding. As soon as we start to understand more about ourselves and who we are, we will change our thinking. And when that thinking changes, we will change what we believe in. And that belief in ourselves is what will make it so we create a completely different world. And when we stop accepting what we know as information and start accepting that we don't know, and that we need to go out, we need to seek, we need to find and understand what is true knowledge, then the cup won't be full anymore, and we can actually fill it.
Once we accept that we don't know what we don't know.
But right now we're full glasses, and we need to.
Once again, the problem is unlearning. People stripping off their ego and realizing that they don't actually know shit. Then you can begin to learn. That is what I think. That is where we're at. Again, to come back to something we touched on earlier, Dunning-Kruger, that is the problem. The problem is we are faced with an overwhelming amount of Dunning-Kruger in this world.
To understand that we need to empty ourselves a little bit so some real knowledge can be poured in. And to do that, we need to eliminate the knowledge that isn't true, the illusion. And more people are choosing to do that every day. If you see and hear what I see and hear, you see that it's going exponentially.
Absolutely.
And that it is inevitable that everybody at some point will accept that true knowledge is the only real knowledge. And the illusion that's created to fill our minds and keep us occupied and cause us to concern ourselves with things like, who won the Super Bowl and who's getting eliminated from Dancing with the Stars isn't real knowledge, real information. It's something that has been created to occupy our thoughts and our minds so we don't get into real believing and real creating.
Oh, damn. What you think is knowledge is actually just something to take up space and occupy your mind to stop you from actually doing some real thinking and understanding what's actually going on. Your mind is full of filler, gap filler. Yes, just like Love Island and your sports teams. It's all gap filler, unfortunately. And people get upset when I say that about sports. And let me be clear, I like sports. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing many sports when I'm in the United States. I like sports. But it's the intense level of tribalism and like it is the pinnacle of life that I think is the problem. I think that's the problem. But sports are fantastic.
And so if I could leave everybody with one message, it's that I know for a fact we create what we believe. We have simply to only truly change our beliefs, and the world will bend around those beliefs, and the world will change. And
my favorite saying: "You get what you expect."
That.
And if you change your expectation.
Yep. If you get that, just change your beliefs a little bit, and see what happens in your life, in reality. We're powerful, absolutely powerful. We're just blind. Actually, to that brilliance.
You reminded me.
I love that shit so much because it resonates with me massively. And I don't know if some people in this chat may be still hearing that and going like, what do you mean you just changed it? Blah, blah, blah. I know it might sound crazy, but it's real. And this is the stuff that I talked about with Dana the other week as well, that like it's all, literally everything in your life starts with the way you think about it. Two people could experience the exact same situation, and depending on how they think and feel about it, which is their choice, that's the key, is you have the choice on how you think and feel about something, will determine the experience they have with whatever it is, and then how they proceed through life and how they remember it. It all starts with your own mind, everything.
Of something now, which was that part of your training was telepathy? Remote viewing?
Yes. That's one thing that I wanted to get to, but I wasn't allowed to do it on Kerry's show. Telepathy.
Interesting.
Everybody saw me use telepathy on my second interview. What Eva wasn't allowed to bring out was when I started babbling on about her, somebody that I'd never met and only communicated with twice on email, she was watching the interview and was having a deep conversation about me with her son. More than 1,000 miles away from where I was. And because of that connection that we had, I was picking up on it. And more importantly, I couldn't do anything except comment on it because I knew what was happening. Now, people can say, oh, it's just a coincidence. Oh, it's not a fact. But she'll tell you that she was sitting there saying some very deep thoughts to somebody else, and then seconds later, I say her name during the middle of probably the most important time in my life. And if you believe in coincidence, then it was a coincidence. If you believe in connections and reading people and telepathy, then I just exercised an ability that is inherent to every human being, yet because we don't believe in it, we don't exercise it, and because we don't exercise it,
So
we don't
part of
have
that
it.
training was to convince you that the ability to do these things came as the result of the specifically the training, or in some instances, I can't speak. Some instances, implants.
That's fine.
That it would like.
Um, and that's the funny thing, is that we were never taught that the reason we could do these things was because we believed we could do them. We were taught because of the training we could do them, or because of the implants we could do them. It was in all purposes the placebo effect. Once we truly believed we could do it, we demonstrated that ability.
I see how that gives them the control to take it
Mm-hmm.
away from you by removing the implant. But when it comes to training, if you've been trained in order to do, how do they take that away from you?
They put you in a psychological hospital for 6 months, pump you full of drugs, and convince you of all kinds of things that don't exist. And they do very, very horrible things to your mind.
This is really interesting, and I don't want to keep bringing it up or spoil it for you, but for those of you who are watching, and if you're enjoying what he's talking about here, I think you're going to really enjoy the part that a part in my conversation with Chris, where he's talking about magic and how he and many other magicians have seemingly pulled off miracles by accident, doing tricks on stage. And he talks about it coming from this place that is like beyond belief, but like not quite fully knowing. And it seems like what Bill is talking about here is almost like the same kind of thing. It's like this, like hubris, this like unfounded, like unwarranted belief, I guess, in what you're doing, that seems to like spawn or dictate the outcome somehow. You kind of change reality through this like really solid sense of belief that's a little bit more than belief.
And that was another portion of the interview that didn't come out very clearly, and I'm disappointed. But some good things have happened, and some people have come forward that have had that happen to them, and now some incredible things are going to happen because of that. So even though the interview appeared, bad, some amazing things have come from it. So I'm not disappointed.
Some good things for you personally, or some good things
for people that need help. For people that have had experiences similar to mine that came out and said, I'm not going to go on TV, but I could use some help because I know this happened to me.
And there's an ex-military, or a wide range of people?
There's ex-military and people that were never in the military, but were under a heavy level of control inside society. And I suggested one of those people during the interview. It's not that person. It's not Corey Feldman. I know Corey Feldman has experienced a huge amount of this mind control experience and tragic things happening into his life that have caused him to make the decisions that he's made with his life.
Interesting. Corey, for those who don't know, Corey Feldman, child star, went on to speak out about the sexual abuse and, satanic side of Hollywood.
And I know he desperately wants to reveal what has happened to him and name names, but he's afraid. Just like all of us, because we've seen bad things happen to people just like us. It's
what I got out of, in terms of you, the way Saturday's interview started and with the information you were sharing, what I took from that was that you were trying to get that very point across. The fact that you were even speaking at all was a bit of a miracle. That your brain had been and your mind had been so broken.
And
do we have Lisa in the chat here? Lisa, thank you for being here. She says, Josh, I emailed you a few weeks. I must have missed it, Lisa. This is actually the first time I've come across your work, and it's a really great interview. Congratulations. It's really, really enjoying it.
Another miracle is that fate brought me to Eva, and that Eva has worked so hard to understand the subject that she can even help me on a continuing basis, and that now I have access to the resources that she's been studying, and I'm getting more help to undo the damage. But that was the point of the whole interview. That was the earth-shattering thing that everybody missed, is that number one, I broke my programming all by myself, and number two, that I haven't been thrown back into a mental facility and been forced to undergo the same torture to get me back under control. Uh, it's not going to be seen as a big deal for a very long time, but history will show that, something, that it was a big deal, that somebody stood up and said, man, this happened. It really did happen.
I've noticed in the chatter since that people are coming from two different camps when it comes to what observing. I really can't speak today. Observing your behavior in that.
Yeah, Lisa, I want to say, as I mentioned it earlier, I'm not sure how long you've been watching, but you asked some fantastic questions. Like, I feel like some people ask the obvious questions, but then some people ask the things that like people are thinking. I think you did a great job of that. I'll make sure, if it's not already linked below, it will be once the stream is finished.
You spend a lot of time rocking on the chair and to and fro, and there was throat clearing and things like that. And there were those who were supportive were seeing it as signs that you was, even in those moments, trying to break through triggers to keep speaking.
Not triggers, but probably talking about, I mean, when you talk about things that people are just going to hear and say, it's too incredible to believe, and they just shut down. And it's
we know them,
so unreal that they just won't accept it. And they'll find any excuse in their minds to discredit or discount what I'm saying. And yeah, I have to deal with those thoughts, because while I'm saying things, I'm just thinking, nobody's ever going to believe me. But at the same time,
take this the right way. I think you're underestimating the audience. Because
since then, I have figured out that isn't the case, and that there's thousands of people that have come privately in support of me, sent me emails, and said, man, if you just keep going, you're going to be so much better. Just keep going, man. A lot of former military have come forward and said, I can't go on camera, but I will tell you this. A lot's happened. It's been quite wonderful. So to discount anything that happened in the interview that was viewed as bad, and we also have to remember the Department of Disinformation here in America that pays thousands of people to stand up and be very vocal and very chatty about these kinds of things. It's very real. And yeah.
It's crazy to think that, like, the reality is that there is probably a handful there's got to be at least two different channels, right? At least two. There's got to be at least two different channels that we all know. Maybe some of us watch them, some of us don't, but we probably all have at least heard of them, that are literally paid disinformation channels. Like, that is just the reality of the situation. And I'm not like trying to insinuate who, because I genuinely have no idea. But the reality of it is that there is absolutely paid channels that are propped up by agencies to push to steer the conversation in a certain way, or to push a certain side of the conversation to create, a certain narrative amongst, the people who are looking into certain things.
Yes, that exists. It's happening, and I have to get past all of that too. There's a reason that this big event, this big negative in my life is there, and it's to keep people from believing what I have to say. It worked for a really, really long time, and I'm sure it's very, very difficult for some people in high places and, buildings with no windows, chatting it up in conferences about how people are actually believing me after I basically disclosed one of the most awful things that one person could do to another, and have people still see that as integrity and guts and courage.
It had to come from you, otherwise, I mean, if that stuff was, if you were outed as such, then you would
Hmm.
have lost all credibility. It had to come from you. And I
Ex-
think above and beyond all of that, people are totally invested in and believe in and can feel the truth of what you're saying in regards to the timelines.
well, and I
So,
hope so, because
regardless of
it is
anything
the
else.
truth, and life is proving me correct. Every day that goes by, we advance forward towards that truth, and people can see it just a little bit more clearly than they were the day before. And a lot of people have a lot more hope about the eventuality of what I speak of, simply because I've come forward and talked about it and reinforced what they feel inside their hearts, what they've always believed. That, yeah, everything seems really, really, really bad right now, but it can't always be this way. There's a lot of people that feel that things aren't right and change needs to happen. And I'm just going to keep moving forward with that. And if I can be the person that embarrasses himself and takes flack and looks like the crazy nut, for now, I'm fine with that. I can have that role because I see further down the path. I can understand that eventually people will see what's happening differently, and more people will accept that this change is happening, and it will reach a critical mass, and then it will change. And then after that, everybody's going to look back on this and go, man, I'm glad that guy did that. I'm really happy that guy did that. I really don't care about anything else. So, yeah, we'll get there.
Well, well, thank you, Bill. I really want to let you know how much I appreciate you doing this with me today, and because I think this message has to get out above and beyond anything else. That it's up to us, at least in terms of the events between now and the inevitable wall, the path that we take, we can make that easier and easier on ourselves and each other.
Hmm.
And it's just about making some really heart-based positive choices.
Yep. And though those choices may seem like they have difficult consequences now, you won't care once you get to the destination, the inevitable destination, because that's going to be the good spot that everybody understands once we get there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Some really cool words there from Bill at the end, basically saying, to make what might seem like a really hard and difficult choice now isn't going to matter eventually. Like the repercussions that you might face for maybe voicing how you feel, being firm in like what you believe in might feel really hard and scary right now, but ultimately you're going to be glad that you did. I think that's really important. And shout out to Lisa Harrison as well. If you're still here in the chat, Lisa, I would love to know if you are still in touch with Bill, or if you have any thoughts on him after this interview, or just kind of like any additional notes that you've kind of gathered about him and his story between since this took place and now. I would love to hear them. If you wanted to shoot them through to an email or however, that would be amazing. But yeah, fantastic interview. I think you asked some great questions, and I think it was also awesome to see another Australian doing this. I often get a lot of comments to me, people saying like, "Oh, it's so cool to see an Aussie doing this stuff." But I think there have been Australians doing this work for a long time, and I love that. I love to see that happening. Let's finish up with some of these super chats here. We are a little behind. Prison Mike says I'm behind on the stream, but he said it. He did. He said the P word. It was very exciting. Dusty G says, "What's for dinner, bro?" Well, with that $50 super chat, my friend, maybe some steak. Maybe some steak for dinner. But let's be real. Probably not. Probably more 7-Eleven sushi and toasties, because that's what I like. That's what I like, okay? I like 7-Eleven toasties. and sushi. And, I don't need a big fancy dinner. I like what I like. And that could feed me sushi and toasties for a long time. Open Door Policy says, watch the doc 2073. Terrifying. They have to tell. I'm already terrified enough, bro. I don't need more fear. Thank you, though. And JL Lammy with 9 months says, thanks for the new knowledge you drop even until this day. I really appreciate you and this community. It's my pleasure, man. Thank you. And thank all of you who tuned in today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Please give it a like if you do. It does help the video get pushed around a little bit, and it helps us get out there. And we're probably going to be back again tomorrow, I think. We might even have streams for the next couple of days, and then there might be a day off. And then instead of our church show, it'll be the podcast premiere with Chris Ramsey. So that'll be like Monday, Australia time, Sunday evening, US. That'll be premiering live. So we'll all be able to gather here in the chat. And it should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your day or your night, wherever you are. Be good to each other. Be kind. Touch some grass. And I'll see all of you beautiful people very, very soon. Peace.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk